Hey everybody, Chapter 5, Part 2 of Artemis Fowl. Holly Short has seen another human and talked to them, and we're going to pick up right there where we left off. So, Holly opened both eyes this time. The creature was tapping a silver eye. Not an eye, a lens. A mirrored lens, like the lenses worn by the other two. And it all came back to her in a jolt. Rushing in to fill the hole in her memory like a combination lock clicking into place. She had been abducted by two humans during the ritual. Two humans that had an extraordinary knowledge of fairy affairs. Holly tried speaking again. "Where am I?" The human giggled delightedly, clapping her hands together. Holly noticed her nails that were long and painted. "You can speak English." "What sort of an accent is that? It sounds like a little bit of everything." Holly frowned. The girl's voice was corkscrewing right into the middle of her headache. She'd lifted her arm. No locator. "Where are my things?" The girl wagged her finger as one might to a naughty child. "Da-da-da-da. Artemis says, Artemis had to take your little gun away and all those other toys. You couldn't have yourself hurting you now, could we?" "Artemis?" "Artemis Fowl. This was all his idea. Everything is always his idea." Holly frowned. Artemis Fowl. For some reason, even the name made her shiver. It was a bad omen. Fairy intuition and gut instinct were never wrong. "They'll come for me, she said, her voice rasping through dry lips. "You don't know what you've done." The girl frowned. You're absolutely right. I have no clue what's going on, so there's no future in trying to psych me out." Holly frowned. It was obviously pointless playing mind games with this human. The mesmer was her only hope. But that wouldn't penetrate the reflective lenses that the girl wore. So how the devil did these humans know that? That could be worked out later, but for now she had to figure out a way to separate the crazy girl from her mirrored sunglasses. By the way, the girl is Juliet, right? Butler's sister. "You are such a pretty human," she said, her voice literally dripping with honeyed flattery. "Well, thank you, Holly. Well, thank you, Holly. I was actually in the local newspaper once. I won a competition, Miss Sugarbeet Fair 1999. I knew it. Natural beauty. I bet your eyes are just spectacular." "Well, that's what everyone tells me," Juliet nodded. "Lashes like clock springs." Holly sighed. "If only I could see them." "Well, why not?" Juliet's fingers curled around the glass's stem, and then she hesitated. "Maybe I shouldn't." "Why not? Just for a second," Holly said. "I don't know. Artemis told me never to take these off." "He'd never know." Juliet pointed to a view cam mounted up on the wall. "Oh, he finds out. Artemis finds out about everything." She leaned in close to the fairy. "Sometimes I think he can see inside my head, too." Holly frowned, foiled again by this Artemis creature. "Come on, 1 second. What harm could it do?" Juliet pretended to think about it. "Well, none, I suppose. Unless, of course, you were hoping to nail me with the mesmer. Just how stupid do you think I am?" "I have another idea," said Holly, her voice altogether changing. "How about I get up and knock you out, and then take those stupid glasses off you for myself?" Juliet laughed delightedly, as if this was the most ridiculous thing she had ever heard. "Good one, fairy girl." "Oh, I'm deadly serious, human." "Well, if you're serious," sighed Juliet, reaching a delicate finger behind her lenses to wipe away a tear. "Two reasons. One, Artemis said that while you're in a human dwelling, a home, you have to do what we want. And I want you to stay right there on that bed. And two," Juliet smiled again, but this time there was a hint of her brother in those teeth. "Two, because I went through the same training as Butler, and I've been dying for somebody to practice some of my moves on." "We'll see about that, human," thought Holly. Captain Short wasn't 100% yet, and there was also the small matter of the thing digging into her ankle. She thought she knew what it could be, and if she was right, then she could have the beginning of a pretty decent plan. And now we'll change gears for a second. Commander Root had Holly's frequencer keyed into his helmet face screen. It took Root longer than expected to reach Dublin. The modern wing rigs were more complicated than the ones that he was used to. Plus, he had neglected to take a refresher course. At the right altitude, he could almost superimpose himself on the luminous map on his visor. At the right altitude, he could almost superimpose the map on his visor over the actual streets of Dublin below him. Almost. Foley, you pompous centaur, he barked into the mouthpiece. Problem, boss man? Said a tinny reply. Problem? You can say that again. When was the last time you updated the Dublin files? Ooh, Root could hear a sucking noise on the other side of the microphone. It sounded like Foley was having lunch. Sorry, Commander. Just finishing off this carrot. Let's see. Dublin. Click, click, click. Looks like 75... Yeah, 1875. I thought so. This place is completely different, Foley. The humans have even managed to change the shape of the coastline. Foley was silent for a moment. Root could just imagine him wrestling with the problem. The centaur did not like to be told that any part of his system was out of date. Okay, here's what I'm going to do, boss man, he said. We have a scope on a satellite TV bird with a footprint in Ireland. I see, muttered Root, which was basically a lie. He had no idea what Foley was talking about. I'm going to email last week's sweep direct to your visor. Luckily, there's a video card in all the new helmets. Luckily. The tricky bit's going to be to coordinate your flight pattern with the video feed. Okay, Root had had enough of all this. How long, Foley? 2 minutes, give or take. Give or take what? About 10 years if my calculations are off. They had better not be off then. And I'll hover until we know. 124 seconds later, by the way, that's 2 minutes and 4 seconds, Root's black and white blueprints faded out, only to be replaced by a full-color daylight imaging. When Root moved, it moved, and Holly's locator beacon dot moved too. Impressive, said Root. Sorry, what was that, Commander? I said impressive, shouted Root. No need to get a swelled head. The commander heard the sound of a room full of laughter and realized that Foley had put him on the loudspeakers. Everyone had heard him complimenting the centaur's work. There was going to be no talking to him for at least a month now, but it was worth it. The video that he was receiving now was completely up to date. If Captain Short was being held in a building, the computer would be able to give him a 3D blueprint instantaneously. It was foolproof. Except... Foley, the beacon's gone offshore. What's going on? Boat or ship, I'd say, sir. Root cursed himself for not thinking about it. They'd be having a big laugh in the Situation Room right now. Of course it was a ship. Root dropped down to a few hundred feet until his shadowy outline loomed through the mist. A whaler by the looks of it. Technology may have changed over the centuries, but there was still nothing like a harpoon to slaughter the world's biggest mammal. Captain Short's in there somewhere, Foley. Below deck. What can you give me? Nothing, sir. It's not a permanent fixture. By the time we've run down her registration, it's going to be too late. Well, what about thermal imaging, infrared? Nothing, Commander. That hull has got to be at least 50 years old. Very high lead content. We can't even penetrate the first layer. I'm afraid you're on your own. Root shook his head. After all the billions that I've poured into your department, remind me to slash your budget when I get back. Yes, sir, came the reply, sullen finally. Foley did not like jokes about the budget. Just have the retrieval squad on full alert. I may need them at a moment's notice. I will, sir. You better. Over out. Root was on his own. Truth be told, that was the way he actually preferred it. No science, no uppity centaur whinnying in his ear. Just a fairy, his wits, a touch of magic, and his blaster. Root tilted his polymer wings, hugging the underside of a fog bank. There was no need to be careful. With his shield activated, he was literally invisible to the human eye. Even on stealth-sensitive radar, he would be no more than a barely perceptible distortion. The commander swooped low to the gunnels, which is like the edges of the boat. It was an ugly craft, this one, and the smell of death and pain lingered on the blood-swabbed decks. Many noble creatures had died here. Died and been dissected for a few bars of soap and some heating oil. Root shook his head. Humans were such barbarians. Holly's beeper was flashing urgently now. She was close. Very close. Somewhere within a 200-foot radius, which was hopefully still breathing. But without blueprints, he was going to have to navigate the belly of the ship old school, unaided. Root landed up lightly on the deck, his boots sticking slightly to the mixture of dried soap and blubber coating the steel surface. The craft appeared to be deserted. No sentry on the gangplank, no bosun on the bridge, not a light anywhere. Still, no reason to abandon caution. Root knew from bitter experience that humans popped up when you least expected them. Once, when he was helping the retrieval boys scrape up a pod wreckage off a tunnel wall, they were spotted by a group of potholing humans. What a mess that had been. Mass hysteria, high-speed chases, group mind wipes. It was a mess. The whole 9 yards. Root shuddered. Nights like that could put decades on a fairy's life. Keeping himself fully shielded, the commander stowed his wings in their sheath. Advancing on foot across the deck, there was no life form showing up on his screen, but, like Foley said, the hull had a high lead content. Even the paint was lead-based. The entire boat was basically a floating eco-hazard. The point being that there could be an entire battalion of stormtroopers hiding below, and he would have no idea. Very reassuring. Even Holly's beacon... Oh, see, I even did this at school. Even Holly's beacon was a few shades below par, and that had a micro-nuclear battery sending out the pulses. Root didn't like this. Not one bit. Keep calm, he decided to himself. You're shielded. There's not a human alive that can see you now. Root hauled open the first hatch. It swung easily enough. The commander sniffed. The mud people had greased the hinges with whale blubber. Was there no end to their sickness? The corridor was steeped in a viscous darkness, so Root flipped on the infrared filter in his mask. Okay, so sometimes technology did actually come in handy. But he wouldn't be telling Foley that. The maze of pipes and grilling before him immediately illuminated with an unnatural red light. Minutes later, he was regretting even thinking something nice about the Centaur's technology. So you see, the infrared filter messed with his depth perception, and he had whacked his head on 2 big protruding U-pipes at least twice. Still, no sign of life, human or fairy. Plenty of animal, mostly rodents, and when you're just about 3 feet tall, a good-sized rat can be a real threat, especially if the rats are one of the few breeds that can see straight through the fairy shield. Root unstrapped his blaster and set it to level 3, or medium rare, as the boys like to call it in the locker room. He sent one of the rats scurrying away with a smoking behind as a warning to the rest. Nothing fatal, just enough to teach him not to look sideways at a fairy who was in a hurry again. Root picked up his pace. This place was ideal for an ambush. He was basically blind with his back to the only exit. It was a recon nightmare. If one of his own men had pulled a stunt like this, he would have pulled their stripes for it. But desperate times required some risk-taking, and that was the essence of command and what he was about to do. And we're going to stop it right there for now, and I'll have the other one up a little bit later on. Hope you guys are good. I miss you all. See you for the next chapter.